All right. As promised, I am going to recap and give my thoughts on every trade. Um, and when I mean every, I mean every. I will be reviewing every trade this year. Um, well, from this year, not you get what I mean. Okay. So starting out, we have the Dennis Schroeder. Actually, I lied. There's one before this. The second round pick swap for Thomas Bryant to the Pacers, of course. Um, Thomas Bryant's been fine, not great. I mean, he's just still kind of shown he hasn't really changed. Good offensive center, bad defensively. I think that still rings true. I think ideally he's your second or third string center, not your starter, but when you've had as many injuries to your centers as you have in Indiana, I get it. So overall, still a pretty good trade. Next, this is an interesting one. Dennis Schroeder and a top 37 protected Miami second round pick. I didn't realize you could be that specific with protections. To the Nets, or excuse me, the Warriors received Dennis Schroeder and said protected second. The Nets get D'Anthony Melton, torn Achilles, out for the year, of course. Reese Beekman hasn't played a ton. Second round pick from Atlanta in 2026 could be a good pick. 2028 Atlanta pick, excuse me, and a 2029 second round pick from Golden State. So obviously Dennis Schroeder was trash in Golden State. I don't think they really paid too much for that experiment. Yeah, those seconds could be valuable, especially because Atlanta's tanking right now. They're rebuilding. Chances are they're not going to be that good next year. That 2028 one, okay. I feel like they'll probably be back to at least mediocrity by then. That 2029 one from Golden State could be valuable. I mean, Steph's 34, 5-ish. Draymond about the same. Jimmy about the same. Like all are, mid 30s. And all of them have shown pretty intense signs of slipping. Obviously, all are still great, but none of them are what they were, and chances are they'll never be what they were, which is totally fine, but I don't think it's fair to rely on them, 4 years from now. All three could be retired or just simply on a different team. So overall, I don't hate the trade. They might have overpaid a little bit, seeing as those seconds could be pretty valuable, but overall, it was worth a shot. Sorry, I'm not in my usual florist study room, so I'm worried somebody's gonna come and yell at me. The next trade is Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton to the Lakers for D'Lo and Maxwell Lewis. In that trade, it also involved a 2027 Lakers second rounder, 2030 Lakers second rounder, 2031 Lakers second rounder. At the time, I thought this was an overpay. I thought D'Lo was getting far too much hate, and I still think he does. But overall, it's worked out pretty well for the Lakers. And to some extent the Nets, but I mean, I don't know, D'Lo is long for the Nets anyways. But the Lakers got their power forward. They got their power forward that's aged well now with Anthony Davis gone. He's a good switchable defender, a bit streaky, but a solid three-point shooter. Shake Milton, just a good bench scorer. He won't do much else, but he's a good bench scorer. He'll have a weird jump shot, and he'll either get you 6 or 30 off the bench one night. Maxwell Lewis, I actually don't know a ton about. I don't think he plays. At the time, I thought those second round picks were, far too much of an overpay, because I thought, this was pre-Luka trade, so I thought LeBron would be retired. Who knows? Probably Anthony Davis is retired in 2030, or, heaven forbid, 2031. So I thought they were paid at the time. Looking back, they didn't really give up that much. They had a point guard spot open. Now Luka fills it. They had a power forward spot open, and now they have another center spot open. I guess that's not true. They traded for another center, but yeah, I'd say this trade has worked pretty well for both teams. We'll see what the Nets do with D'Lo and those seconds. I mean, they have to keep him at least until the end of the year. I don't think he expires until next year. So we'll see what he does for them. The next trade, I have some strong feelings on this one. Nick Richards to the Suns, along with basically, I want to say protected second. I mean, it's basically nothing. It's a 2025 second-round pick, least favorable of Denver and Philadelphia. So that'll be like a pick in the 50s. Like, it won't be valuable. My guess is they probably just don't even sign that guy. Knowing their GM and his history of drafting guys, he probably isn't long for the team if he does get picked up. My guess is, honestly, that pick gets traded for cash. But in that trade, Charlotte receives a 2026 second-round pick via Denver, a 2031 second-round pick via Denver also, and another second-round pick via Phoenix. So, I don't really think this was an overpay. You guys know my thoughts on Nick Richards. I don't think he's very good. Obviously, he's good compared to you or I. It just is purely in comparison to other NBA players. I've watched a lot of basketball. I like to imagine, or at least think, that I know a lot about basketball. I don't mean this as an insult to him or his family. I know they would all dunk on me. But again, just my opinion. All right, now that that's out of the way. I don't think Nick Richards is very good. So at the time, I thought this was an overpay, and I still kind of do. I get it. Okogie didn't play, but 2031 for Denver and Phoenix is looking murky. I mean, Phoenix, their stars are older. Kevin Durant's, I think, 34. Beal, 33, maybe? And Devin Booker, I believe, is 29. So it's like, I doubt any of them will be around in 2031. I get it. It's a second. But that's right about the time you'd be rebuilding with this team. Like, I think that's one of the later picks you can trade. So that's going to be really the only picks they have. Nick Richards hasn't been a great fit for them. He isn't great offensively. He isn't great defensively. He's not a great rebounder. He's just kind of purely a big body. He's more athletic than Jusuf Nurkic. So overall, I'd give this trade like a C. It's fine. Hornets get a good return for Nick Richards. The second they gave up isn't super valuable, and the seconds they received could all be pretty good. Okogie, fine. He won't and hasn't played a ton, but just a decent depth piece to add. Utah and the Phoenix Suns. Utah acquires the Phoenix Suns 2031 first-round pick. There's that pick I mentioned. And Phoenix receives a 2025 pick swap. It's technically a swap. It's not. I mean, it's complex, but a 2025 first-round pick, whatever the least favorable of Cleveland or Minnesota is. With Minnesota kind of looking, I'll be honest, not great this year. That pick could be decent. I don't love it, especially when the Jazz are still trying to rebuild. From my understanding, this is Minnesota's only pick, so this will be their worst pick. So I don't get it. A 2027 first-round pick, least favorable of Cleveland, Minnesota, Utah. Same thing, primarily for Minnesota. Hopefully Utah's good by then. Doubt they will be. 2029 first-round pick, least favorable of Cleveland, Minnesota, Utah. Again, I think this is an overpay. You're assuming the Suns are going to be terrible in 2031 when they still have good trade assets. I mean, there was talks of Kevin Durant being traded today, and you bet your ass the Grizzlies would have given them a haul. I mean, Kevin Durant's still a top 5-10 player in the NBA, if not the world. So they would have gotten a good haul. They still could trade Durant at any point. They still could trade Booker at any point. So, I don't know. Chances are if they're trading those guys, it's for a rebuild. They won't be great. But with all their picks gone, they could just trade them for mediocrity, sort of a Pistons Blake Griffin situation. And Utah gets that 2031 pick again, just to reiterate that. This is another one I have pretty strong feelings on. PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, and a 2030 second-round pick from the Clippers and cash. We don't care about the cash part. Scratch that out. LA acquires Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. Now, obviously, neither of those guys are great. Drew Eubanks, quality backup center, improved a lot from last year. Had a pretty down year, but he's been good. He's been good when he's played. I don't think he's a starting caliber center for most teams, but as a bench center, great. Like, I trust him with 24 minutes, and if he needs to, a spot start. Patty Mills, obviously not great at this point in his career. The reason I don't like this trade is Patty Mills was beloved by the Jazz. I'm a huge Jazz fan, if you didn't know that. So I'm going to know weird stuff about the team. And obviously, our team's super young, especially our guards. Collier, Sexton, Keontae, if you want to count Cody Williams, he's more of a 2-3, and so on. And he had apparently just been coaching those guys up. Everybody loved him. He'd helped those guys through a lot, through the rigors of an NBA season. I mean, he's, by all reports, a great dude, a great teammate, and to many a great friend. So, I just don't get it. I understand it's a business, but you also need vets for these guys to improve. I mean, it's the same reason everybody loved Mike Conley in Utah, same reason everybody loved Kelly Olynyk in Utah, same reason everybody loved Jay Crowder in Memphis when they were rebuilding or young. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but you get my point. So, I just don't get it. I do think the Jazz will still be fine, but it's definitely a big loss for the team, just personality-wise, and could be detrimental to the younger guys that we're building our future around. We didn't end up with either PJ Tucker or Mo Bamba. We waived Mo Bamba and traded Tucker. So, was it worth it? Was it worth it, Danny Ainge? Trading away a piece of the team's core, a piece of the team's identity, someone that the team loved and cared about, a good morale booster. Was it worth it for a 2030 second-round pick? I guess that's not up to me, but we'll talk about the PJ Tucker trade in a little bit. But for LA, I like the fit. Needed a backup center? Great. Patty Mills won't play. Again, good bench guy, good morale guy. So, yeah, good fit. Again, same as in Utah. Good backup center. Would trust him with a spot start if Zoo gets hurt. Great. That's basically all his role is. He's on a reasonable contract. I think he has 2 more years after this. And about $20 million? Could be wrong. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's a decent-sized contract. All right, now this is the motherlode of all the trades. This is what started this insanity off. The Dallas Mavericks acquire Anthony Davis, Max Christie, a 2029 Dallas first-round pick, and $55,000. I like Sports Tracks has a specific amount of money for this trade, but not any others. Now, if you haven't heard, I'm not going to spoil it, but you're probably thinking, whoa, how did Dallas get Anthony Davis? Did they trade Kyrie? Did they somehow come up with more firsts? How did they make that contract work? I mean, what happened? And if you haven't heard about it, chances are you have, but if you haven't heard about it, you're not going to guess it. I'll give you 3 seconds to think of the answer. They traded fucking Luka Doncic. Yup. They traded Luka Doncic because he was unconditioned and wasn't good on defense. We'll see moves or more kind of dumb moves from Nico Harris on the Mavs GM later on, but Nico Collison, what the hell are you doing? Luka Doncic is 25. He's made All-NBA first team 5 out of the 6 years of his career, and he could have made an All-NBA team his rookie year, but he was a rookie and nobody wanted to give it to him. Fair enough. Like, his rookie year, he averaged like 28 and 8. Maybe not that much, but close to it. I mean, like, you get my point. He was great his rookie year. And I get it. He's been injured. He's a bigger guy. He's not going to work as hard on defense. He's going to have a beer after the game. He's going to smoke hookah in the offseason. Do you want to know players that did that? Michael Jordan, another big day, Vlade Divac. I mean, any star, Larry Bird, Magic, there's plenty of footage of them drinking and smoking in the offseason, if not after games. The greatest player ever drank like a fish, smoked like a chimney, and gambled like, well, I don't know, like Michael Jordan. Yeah, I just don't get it. Anthony Davis is 31, Luka is 25. They cited injury history as a concern too. You traded for a glass cannon, someone who's notoriously injured, Anthony Day-to-Day Davis. Look, he's been healthier over these past 2 years, but he's said it himself. He's played through injuries that he'd usually rest for. That'll pile up at some point, depending on the injuries. Granted, he played through them, so we don't necessarily know what they are. But knowing Anthony Davis, it's either a bone issue. I believe he's had bone spurs before. I could be wrong. Or bone bruises. I apologize. Or a soft tissue issue. The dude's tissues are made out of toilet paper. Like, longevity is not in Anthony Davis's future. I love AD. I think he gets overhyped. I do think he was kind of a disappointment. He's far from the greatest power forward ever, like many projected him to be, but he's a great player. Probably the best defensive player in the NBA, outside of Wemby and Walker Kessler. Great finisher. He bitches and moans about not wanting to play center. He's a center. His best position is at center. Despite his claims and fans' claims, he can't shoot. But outside of that, I mean, he's a great player. Top 10 player in the NBA, easily. DPOY candidate this year. He won't win it. But, yeah. He's also 31. He hasn't made an All-NBA first team 5 times in a row. He hasn't been close to MVP contention. Luka should have won it last year. Multiple times in a row. Basically every year of his career. Outside of his rookie year, of course. That's why I said basically. I don't need to explain that. He hasn't led his team to the finals, and he hasn't shown he can be a number one type of guy. And you're probably thinking, and Kyrie could be a number one guy. No, he hasn't shown he can. Think about all the stops where he's been successful. Cleveland, good first rookie year? Good first year or two. I don't recall the exact timeline. Better when LeBron was there. Won a championship with LeBron there. Went to Boston. Was better when Tatum and Brown came into their own and started being able to do more ball handling and more creation. Brooklyn was okay on his own. Was great, still an all-star, but not like the hyper-efficient Kyrie we know now until KD and Harden came back. Look at Dallas. He's been had some of his best seasons with Luka. He, as incredible as he is not a one-on-one player, not a number one player at this point. Maybe earlier in his career, but not now. The big thing that Dallas struggled with in the finals was Kyrie not being able to get past dudes, not being able to, ISO score, and not being able to create for himself or others. Is this fixed now? Keep in mind, Luka was severely injured throughout the playoffs. I think he had an Achilles strain and a severe ankle sprain too. I think it came out saying both injuries were pretty bad. Dude could barely run, much less jump. And I get it. Luka was not great in the finals. Boston was just swarming him because Kyrie wasn't playing well. But yeah, look, I get it. Luka wasn't playing great in the finals in turn. So was Kyrie. You can kind of attribute that to each other. But I still don't get it. Again, Kyrie's 31. He's getting older. He's not the pinnacle of health either. Despite Nico Harrison's claims, they don't have a 10-year future. Yes, he said that. He said 10 years from now we'll probably be buried, meaning him and Jay Kidd, meaning also kind of referring, I don't remember the exact wording, but also referring to Davis and Kyrie. But yeah, if Luka's healthy, they might win the championship. Luka was historically great when he was healthy during that playoff run. I mean, I know he went to the finals, so he was going to be up there anyways. But he led the NBA in every stat during those playoffs. Think about that. A playoffs with SGA, who made it to the conference finals. Second round, Anthony Edwards, who made it to... No, OKC made it to the conference finals. Oh, you get my point. SGA, Anthony Edwards, Nikola Jokic. LeBron was in there that year. I think he was. I apologize. You'll have to forgive me. It's late. But again, you get my point. I mean, they took him to 5 or 6 and quite honestly put the fear of God on him. They could have won that series if Kyrie was better. And now you're relying on him to be your number one guy. I still can't get over it. Like, if it were to come out today that it was all a big joke, I would be less surprised than I am now. I don't get it for Dallas fans. I'm sorry. I truly am. I think I mentioned, but you get Max Christie too. Fine. Just basically Quentin Grimes 2.0, which we'll get to later. Yeah, I don't get it. Nico Harrison should be fired. Simple as that. He didn't want to pay him. Well, I was going to leave it at he didn't want to pay him, but he didn't want to pay him the Supermax specifically. If you don't pay Luka Doncic the Supermax, who the hell do you pay it to? Luka Doncic is a top 3 player in the NBA, if not top 2. He will be in the Hall of Fame. He will win an MVP in his career. Who the hell else do you pay it to, Nico Harrison? He said he was frustrated with his star, Luka. He was referring to Luka when he said that. I guarantee you 25 out of 30 teams are frustrated with their star. I guarantee you the Nuggets want Jokic to be more attentive, to be there more in practice and in the offseason, not in Serbia playing with his horses. I guarantee you the Warriors wish Steph would speak up more. Wished if Steph spoke up more, it would help the team. I mean, obviously, there was an addition to the team, but again, we'll get to that later. I can keep going on and on. James Harden was... Do you all know what happened in Houston, Brooklyn? Yeah, you get my point. Being frustrated with your star is not unique to Luka. If anything, Luka seems like a laid-back guy. By all reports, great dude. Chill guy, just wants to play basketball, have a beer, and smoke. I mean, who among... No, I'm just kidding, I'm 18, but... Yeah, I just don't get it. For the Lakers, they got Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, and $55,000. Do I need to say my thoughts on the Lakers? I fucking love it. It's great. This sets them up for 10 plus years. Granted, Luka could still leave in the offseason. He's unrestricted. I kind of doubt he will. That would be so funny, though, if he went to Dallas and signed, the minimum. Just as, an FU to the league. It's a big plot to get Luka more help. But yeah, no, if Luka stays, which, let's be real, he will, this sets them up. The worst thing is Luka lost out on a Supermax, and now he has to pay income tax, which sucks for him, but doesn't really affect you and I. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers have Luka Doncic. What? Again, great trade for them, sets them up for the future. I'm surprised, honestly, they didn't trade LeBron. I think this makes them worse in the short term, great in the long term. I don't love the fit with Luka and LeBron, but overall, I like it. Gives you a guy to build around, gives you a guy who can help you now, and who knows? With some of the additions they added, they could go kind of far in the playoffs. Obviously, Anthony Davis, big loss, but you got Luka Doncic back. Hard to complain. Utah got Jalen Hood-Schifino, a 2025 second from the Lakers, a 2025 second from Dallas. Now, apparently, Danny Ainge said he did not know that Luka was going to the Lakers. He wouldn't have done this deal if he knew Luka was going to the Lakers. Only reason he took Schifino is the Lakers needed his contract off the books to take Luka. Ainge thought the Lakers were just sick of him. I think they were going to send back a second to just, make it so both teams get something, or maybe even just cash considerations. That's not confirmed by any means, but the Jazz do have some Lakers picks in the future from the Russell Westbrook deal. The Russell Westbrook deal. He got traded to Utah. I apologize. I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. The Russell Westbrook, Mike Conley, D'Lo deal. They have some first-round picks from that we've all expected to be good. Now they're not. If Luka stays there, they will not be. Doesn't matter if the team around him sucks. They will get 40 wins if Luka plays. I think that's more than fair to say. Luka makes the guys around him much, much better. He dragged a team with him, Tim Hardaway Jr., who was a small forward at the time. Doesn't matter, but he dragged a team with basically just him and a bunch of mid-role players to the playoffs because Tingis was always injured. So yeah, I trust him what's scary is he couldn't prove. He's only 25. I trust him to bring the Lakers to at least mediocrity if he's on his own. So that damages the Jazz's picks. That damages their value. It sucks. And the Jazz ended up waiving Hood-Schifino anyways, so yeah. Next trade. This was probably the second biggest trade of the week, but the past 3 days. Zach LaVine and De'Aaron Fox got moved, essentially for each other. Well, not for each other, because that makes it sound like Fox ended up on this Bulls, but we'll just run through the deal. Sacramento traded away Zach LaVine and Kevin Huerter, and I think that's it. In return, they got back Zach LaVine. Did I say Zach LaVine and Kevin Huerter? I meant De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter. My apologies. In return, they got Zach LaVine, Sidy Cissoko, didn't end up keeping him. 2025 first-round pick, Charlotte protected, is lottery protected this year. The Hornets suck. It won't defer this year. It turns out into a 2026 and 2027 second-round pick, I believe. Either that or 2025, 2026 second-round picks. A 2027 Spurs pick, a 2031 Minnesota pick, a 2025 second-round Chicago pick, a 2025 second-round Denver pick, protected. I don't know the protections on that. I apologize. And a 2028 second-round Chicago pick. All in all, a pretty good haul for De'Aaron. I'm not including Kevin Huerter. He didn't play. He's, quite frankly, not very good. The Spurs received De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. I mean, yes, Fox is older, but they have their point guard for the foreseeable future now. There were talks of them getting Trae Young. I know this is just rumor milling at this point, which I would have loved more. But Fox is a good fit next to Wemby, especially if Wemby continues to develop his three-point game. Add spacing for Fox, he can slash. Great passer, great dump-off passer, great kick-out passer. About all you could hope for Wemby. I think in his first game there, I think he had 23 and 10. He fits in seamlessly. So yeah, I love the trade for the Spurs. The Bulls get back Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Tre Jones, and a 2025 second-round pick their own. I guess they received. It's not included because technically, they didn't get anything back for the pick. They got their own first back, which was lottery protected for the next 2 years, and then top 8 protected the year after that. Reports are conflicting, but basically they got the rights to that pick back. It just wasn't reported by most. Obviously, I'm just not making stuff up here. But is this really the best return you could get for Zach LaVine? You're telling me the Warriors, the Bucks, the Suns, I mean, I can go on and on. There's going to be plenty of teams, probably 20 teams that have interest in Zach LaVine. But you're telling me none of them were willing to move 1-2 firsts? Hell, the Sixers were rumored to get it for a little bit after the Paul George trade, of course. But I mean, he's been on the block for 3 years, about 2.5. Basically ever since Lonzo got injured. So yeah, about 2.5, 3 years. This is the best you could get for him. 3 role players and your own pick back. You're gonna suck the next 3 years anyways. Chances, I mean, you will be in the lottery this year. You will be in the lottery next year unless you somehow get Cooper Flag and he's better than we thought rookie year. And chances are you'll be top 8 still the year after that. Is the right to your own first and second back that valuable? Because I know Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and Trey Jones aren't. No disrespect to any of those guys. Kevin Huerter, fine backup 2 guard. Trey Jones, fine starting point guard, good backup point guard. Zach Collins, hit or miss. Hasn't been great this year, was good last year, but 3 role players and the rights to your pick back for an all-star, one of, if not the most efficient scorers in the league, probably outside of Giannis, but that's all you could get. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Throat hurts, I'm out of water. I said we talk about every trade, so here we are. Oklahoma gets a 2029 second-round Phoenix pick from the Nick Richards deal. Charlotte requires a 2030 second-round pick from Denver. What's funny is under it, I just wrote, nah. The next trade, Caleb Martin, a 2030 second-round pick, Quentin Grimes, and a 2025 second-round pick. Nico Harrison, what are you doing? Currently, Quentin Grimes is a better player than Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin shoots like 35% from 3. He's not a small forward. He's not a power forward. He's not a good rebounder. He's not a good defender. He's just there. I didn't really love the signing at the time it happened. I wouldn't have loved if the Heat signed him for that massive contract he was rumored to get. He had a good playoff run, and that's about it. No disrespect to him. He's a decent role player, but not enough to trade for a 24-year-old, potentially really good, if not already really good, 3-and-D piece. The fact they got a second back, too, because somehow Nico Harrison didn't know Caleb Martin's injured. He's been injured for, weeks at this point. He apparently called and was like, oh, I want a second. I didn't know he was injured. I can't remember the 76ers GM. It's the same GM, Daryl Morey. I think. Be crazy if it wasn't. And Daryl Morey just gave him a 2030 second-round pick. Philadelphia got their own pick back. They're on second, which will be good this year. If Embiid doesn't stay healthy, or George doesn't stay healthy, which seems to be the way the season's going, they might be outside of the lottery. Or they might be a play-in team. Like, that pick will be solid. Again, second-round pick, I know. But, those picks have panned out in recent years. Not to necessarily all-stars or all-NBA players, with exception to, Jokic. But quality role players. I just don't get it. You're losing value. You're losing talent, quite honestly. Quentin Grimes, again, better player, better shooter, better defender than Caleb Martin. Younger, too. I just don't get it. I don't know what the hell Nico Harrison's doing. Again, I'm sorry, Dallas fans. Next trade. The Celtics get a 2027 second-round pick, least favor of Portland and New Orleans. They give away Jaden Springer and a 2030 unprotected second-round pick that I believe is their own. Celtics do this, open up 2 roster spots, get rid of some cap, or I guess the cap hit, they're over the cap. But by trading Jaden Springer, I think their hit goes from 157 to 140. Mind you, Springer is making $2 million a year. It's a late first, early second round contract, so it's not big. And they declined his option anyway, so this would be his last year. Okay, fine for both teams. Boston still isn't allowed to be in the buyout market, but there's still free agents out there who might be interesting, who probably will have more of a role than Jaden Springer if signed. Houston gets a young, interesting piece in Jaden Springer. Cool. Good trade for both teams, honestly. I don't hate it. Daniel Tice went to the Thunder for a 2031 second round pick, and New Orleans got cash. New Orleans does this to get under the cap. They were 1.4 million over. Daniel Tice makes about 3 million, so they end up about 2 million under. New Orleans is notoriously cheap. They'll do anything they can to get under the cap. I think this is like the 10th year in a row they've been under the cap, and the year they were, it was like 500,000 over. Like, it was close. And by all reports, they still try to get under. I'm not surprised. It's disappointing, especially when that team needs center depth, but okay. I guess if you want to keep being cheap, whatever. I don't think it would put them in either of the aprons. I think they just have to pay the tax. I guess if you want to be cheap, fine. Again, the Thunder received Daniel Tice, who got waived, a 2031 second round pick, least favorable of the Pelicans in Orlando. Pick probably won't be super valuable. Probably going to be 50s. Here's the most interesting trade to me. The Bucks traded away Chris Middleton. Now you're probably thinking, well, okay, Owen, that makes sense. Older player, injury concerns. Who'd they get from him? Some good role players. Their depth's kind of limited. Replacement star. They traded some of their picks for that. And you'd be wrong. They got neither. They got Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin, not on the team, ended up with the Spurs, and Jericho Sims. Bad. I made a video on this earlier, basically just kind of digesting and breaking down why Kyle Kuzma is not a great fit with the team. But basically, worst defender, despite being 4 or 5 years younger, if not older, maybe even 6. I don't recall off the top of my head. I think Middleton's like 32, 33. Kyle Kuzma's 28. But yeah, I don't get it. Kyle Kuzma's much worse shooter, much worse defender, despite being 6 years younger than Chris Middleton. He's far from the pinnacle of health either. He's having probably his worst year at 28, which I know is young, but we've seen players regress at 28. Usually not by this much. He was better last year with assists and rebounding, but his shooting efficiency still is pretty bad. He shoots like 33% from 3, about 40 from the field, 70 from the line, and this is off the top of my head. Could be more from the line, could be more from the field. It's approximate. And he doesn't give the Bucks that secondary creation that Chris Middleton brought. Like, this is a Bucks team that needed and needs creators. Chris Middleton brought that. When Damian Giannis was out the floor, Chris Middleton could be a number one playmaker. A guy who can set guys in a position, move guys around, run plays, be an initiator. Like, I think he's averaging like 6-7 assists this year, which probably wasn't sustainable. But the year before that, he averaged like 5. They needed a secondary to tertiary creator. They needed an outlet, somebody who can kind of bail them out. And Chris Middleton was that, and Kuzma's just not. Patrick Baldwin, whatever. Contract's not on the team. Second round pick, I apologize. I don't know from who. Most favorable, I think it's from the Knicks. And it's just a pick swap, most favorable between the Knicks and Milwaukee. New York gets Delon Wright and cash. I thought they needed center depth, but whatever. Washington gets Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, a 2028 first-round pick. Washington has the right to swap with Milwaukee. Doesn't need to be worse or less, they just choose. Which I guess would be better. They're not going to trade for a worse pick, but yeah. I just don't get it. I don't know why the Bucks would do this. For a team that's supposedly contending, yes, I know Chris Middleton was a health risk, but I'd rather take Chris Middleton and his health risks than Kyle Kuzma and his poor play. Simple as that. I thought at the time that the Wizards might trade Middleton, keep A.J. Johnson. No. I understand this for the Wizards. They get a young, at least interesting prospect, a first, and a talented player who they could flip in the future. He expires this year, Chris Middleton, but has a player option for about $33 million, which he'll take. He won't get it on the open market. So who knows? Maybe they flip him in the future. But every rebuilding team needs spacing. Chris Middleton can provide that. He can maybe get Sarr into better positions, and I guess we'll have to see. But I don't hate it for the Wizards, hate it for the Bucks, New York, whatever. Another trade here. Sacramento got Jonas Valanciunas. Washington got Sidney Sissoko, 2029 second round pick from Denver, 2029 second round pick from the Kings. Sidney Sissoko got waived, by the way. I think he got traded one more time, but he's not on a team currently. It's kind of meh for most teams, honestly. If you're the Wizards, ideally you would have gotten more for Vooch, a pick, and more valuable seconds. I'm not a big Vooch guy. I don't think he's great anymore, but at the end of the day, he's still a big body, kind of a bruiser, good rebounder. Sometimes is respected from the three-point line, but a guy who can just kind of rack up stats, be a big body in the paint, and enforcer. He won't block shots, but he's not going to be moved off his spot. Like, he's still a good, valuable player. And to get 2 seconds for him, I doubt that's what Washington wanted. Like, is that the best offer you could have gotten? I guess whatever. At the time, I'm like, oh, they're keeping City. They didn't. So I guess I get 2 seconds. But yeah, for the Wizards, meh, not a great return, but fine. Sacramento didn't have to pay much. Decent backup center. Those minutes have been going to like Alex Len and Trey Lyles. Certainly an upgrade. I do like Alex Len, but certainly an upgrade over Alex Len. Trey Lyles, more of a 3-4. So yeah, it's fine for both teams. This one is one I absolutely hate with a passion. Brandon Ingram goes to the Raptors. Yes, the Toronto Raptors. The basketball team. I don't know if there's another Raptors team elsewhere that's not a basketball team, but the NBA team located in Toronto, Canada, who had Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady play for them, that Toronto Raptors. I'll explain why I hate that for the Raptors in a sec, but Bruce Brown goes to New Orleans, Kelly Olynyk, a 2026 first-round pick from Indiana, the Pascal Siakam trade, a 2031 second-round pick from Toronto. I don't get it. I understand moving on from Bruce and Kelly. Bruce wasn't long for the team, probably neither was Kelly. Neither got great minutes. Both were just kind of end-of-the-bench rotation players. Both players who will be good on any sort of contender or playoff-bound team. Both guys who fit roles on good teams, but not necessarily guys who fit roles on bad teams. Again, ideally you could get more for them, though. I mean, or maybe not more, because when you got an all-star in Brandon Ingram, but ideally you could get younger from them. You could get picks from them. Like, for a team that's supposedly rebuilding, they're making a lot of moves that say otherwise, and a lot of moves that'll make them mediocre. I'll get more into that in a sec. But why? I mean, was the appeal of the Pascal Siakam trade getting Brandon Ingram? That's the best you could do from the Pascal Siakam trade, is getting Brandon Ingram and another first. Like, I know the 2026 first probably won't be super valuable. I think the other one was a 2027 first, and I think a 2028 protected first from Indiana that they got from the Pascal Siakam trade. They didn't move that here. This is the best you could get. I mean, there's no promise Brandon Ingram even stays. He could leave in the offseason. For all we know, he just hates Toronto. I doubt he wants to go to a team where he wins. I'm sure he wants to go pull a Jeremy Grant and go to a team where he can just score and do his own thing. Which maybe not fair to assume, but by all accounts, it might be. For the Pelicans, fine. Again, ideally you could have gotten better return. Did the Warriors not offer anything better? Did the Heat not offer anything better? Did the Bucks, Suns not offer anything better than a first-round pick and 2 aging role players? For the Raptors, why are you doing this? What's the point? Brandon Ingram doesn't fit into your timetable. You're rebuilding. You traded away Pascal Siakam. You let Fred VanVleet go because you're rebuilding. Now you're just going to trade for a player who will elevate your team. Not to good heights. I mean, don't get me wrong, Brandon Ingram's a decent player. Bit of a, round peg, square hole type player, but he'll elevate you to 35, 40 wins if he's healthy. Especially with a Raptors team that is solid. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, this only hurts your lottery odds. Let's see. I had the standings pulled up, but yeah, I mean, they're already low in the standings. I believe they're 6 games out of the play-in. Here we go, I have them pulled up. Yeah, they're 16 and 35. The only teams in the East that are worse are the Hornets at 12 and 36 and the Wizards at 9 and 41. They're 1 game back from the Nets, 4 game back from the Sixers, and 6 games back from the Bulls. You're not making the play-in. Like, I'll be honest, you won't make the play-in. Even if you do, you'll either lose to a play-in team or get swept in the first round. Then you're out of the lottery. If you don't make the play-in, or if you do make the play-in and lose, there goes your lottery odds. You're not getting a top 10 pick, probably. You're not getting the first pick in a draft class that is really stacked and really talented. I don't understand it. Next year's draft class is reportedly pretty good too. Obviously, we don't know for sure. We need some time to evaluate them. But I mean, even in the West, there's not many teams worse than them. The only teams worse than them are the Jazz and the Pelicans, and the Pelicans will improve. I just don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't fit into their timetable. I don't think it's a good fit with Quickley and Barnes. I don't understand it. Next trade, we keep on pushing. I've also done a video on this. Mark Williams got traded to the Lakers. The Lakers are just acquiring young talent left and right. The Hornets get Cam Reddish, Dalton Knecht, a 2031 first, and a 2030 pick swap. Charlotte right to swap with the Lakers. Won't be that valuable now that they have Luka. I don't get this for the Hornets. I guarantee you there's something you and I don't know. Maybe Mark Williams' back is rooted. Maybe he specifically asked for a trade. But I don't know why you trade him. He's a great fit next to LaMelo. And I know LaMelo's injured for at least a little bit. But why? Why move him now? He's young. I think he's only 22, 23. He's far from old. He's a good fit next to LaMelo. Good defender. Good athletic defender. Can maybe learn to space out. Apparently he's been taking a bunch of threes in practice. But a great rim protector, a great lob threat next to LaMelo. 2 things that just benefit LaMelo. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. For the Lakers, love it. Could be your long-term center. You could build alongside him with Luka if he stays healthy. Great. You get your center now and you get your center for the future. Makes him interesting. I don't know how well he fits with Luka and LeBron. It's not great spacing, although Anthony Davis didn't exactly provide great spacing. He at least was a bit of a threat. But yeah, I like it for the Lakers. Didn't give up a ton. 2 older prospects in Knecht and Reddish. Knecht has looked awful outside of that 1 month where he got super hot and hit like 33s in a row. So yeah, I like it. Some people say they overpaid. I don't think they did. Next trade. The NBA is trying to kill me in my voice. There's so many. Apparently this was a record for trades at the deadline. The Philadelphia 76ers receive Jared Butler from the Washington Wizards, a 2027 second-round pick, most favorable of the Golden State Warriors and Phoenix. Could be good. 2028 Golden State second-rounder. 2030 most favorable pick of Phoenix, Portland. Again, could be good. A 2030 second-round pick from Washington. Who knows? They give up Reggie Jackson and a 2026 first-round pick, least favorable of OKC, Houston, and the Clippers. All those teams will be pretty good next year. Unless, Kawhi dies, James Harden gets fat and retires, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tears both of his Achilles. You get the point. So it won't be a great pick by any means, especially with it being least favorable, but For the Wizards, okay. I don't mind it. You might have overpaid a bit for that first. They ended up waiving Reggie Jackson, so he's not on the team. But then, it's a first. Give him another dart to throw at the wall, see if it sticks. I like it for the Sixers. As much as I love Kyle Lowry, he's bad now. He can't move, he can't play, he can't shoot. It's time. Jared Butler's kind of the perfect backup point guard, kind of in that Ty Jerome mold. I think he'll play good minutes for them. He's young, could be a good long-term fit, decent shooter, decent passer. Yeah, I like it. This is another example of the Jazz. You're probably asking, I guess let me read the trade. Miami gets Davion Mitchell. Toronto acquires PJ Tucker, a second-round pick and cash. You're probably asking, how did PJ Tucker end up in Toronto? Did the Jazz waive him, buy him out? No. I'll get to that in a little bit. Again, what is Toronto doing? I get it. Davion Mitchell, not great. Currently looking like a bust. But he's still decently young. You're a team that should be at least rebuilding. He's a decent enough prospect, good defender. If he improves more, could have better value. I don't get it. For PJ Tucker too, the last year of his contract, he's 39. I doubt he plays, and if he does, I doubt he plays well. He was struggling even in his last years with, was it Milwaukee? He got traded to the Clippers, I think. I could be wrong, but whatever his last years were and whatever team he was playing for, they weren't great. He was struggling. He's not the shooter he once was. He's not the defender he was. He's kind of washed. If the Raptors wanted an expiring contract, I guess I get it. But are you trying to win now? Are you trying to rebuild, Masai? What's the deal? Another trade, Milwaukee, TBD, still can't find anything. San Antonio Spurs receive Patrick Baldwin and cash. My guess is the Bucks get a second. They needed to waive somebody. Okay. Patrick Baldwin wasn't going to play. He would have been in that Tyler Smith role. Fine. Another biggie. Not for any stars, but a lot of talking. Phoenix gets Cody Martin, Vasa Micic, a 2026 second-round pick, least favorable of Golden State and Denver. Probably won't be great, but whatever. Charlotte gets Nurkic and a 2026 first-round pick, least favorable of Phoenix, Washington, protected 1 through 8, and Orlando, Memphis. Okay. Is Yusuf Nurkic really a better fit next to LaMelo than Mark Williams? No disrespect to Yusuf, but not a good defender, not a rim threat. Good passer, good offensive player, good rebounder. I guess not a good defender isn't entirely true. He's kind of in the same vein as like a Jonas Valanciunas, where he can be an enforcer, just stand in the paint, be big and tall. But he's a plotter. He's not a guy who's going to get off the ground for lobs. He's not a guy who LaMelo can kick out to. It just doesn't make sense. I have no problem with trading Cody Martin and Vasa, but why for Nurkic? I get it, you get a first out of it too, but the Mark Williams trade just ends up with Nurkic. Why not invest in Moussa Diabate? Why not? I don't know. There's another. Why not play Tidjane Shalon more? I don't understand it. There's no chance Nurkic is long for that team. He's not a good fit anyways, but I guess whatever. Phoenix. I wrote I don't like this for the Suns. It's okay for the Suns. Their center depth has been really bad. I get it. Nurk hasn't been nearly as good as last year, but he's still a solid player, decent passer, really good rebounder. Again, decent rim protector. I get it. His finishing sucks. But on a team that has 3 high-usage players in Booker, Durant, and Beal, it's not like he was really forced to do much finishing anyways. Most of his finishing consisted of dump-off passes, pick and rolls, and just tip-ins. So it's not like you're, having him up in the high post just saying, go get us a buck and Yusuf. So I don't get it. I'm kind of at a loss for words. Nick Richards, again, has been bad. Mason Plumlee, not very good anymore. I mean, you already have plenty of wing depth. I just don't understand why you get Cody Martin and Vasa Micic. I know Vasa's not a wing, but like a backup point guard, you have Tyus Jones already. I don't know. I don't get it. I think this puts pressure on Kevin Durant to play the center, which I don't think his body can handle anymore. If anything, I would want him to play in bubble wrap, not necessarily bumping and backing up with guys like... Sorry, my mom texted me about Elon Musk. Fuck Elon Musk. Fuck Donald Trump. Well, I don't know how to edit. I was going to say I should edit that out because I don't have any subscribers, but whatever. If anybody wants to ask me about that, I would love to talk about politics. Politics in the NBA is like my shit. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't love it. The Suns get depth in positions they don't need depth for. The next trade, Cleveland Cavaliers get DeAndre Hunter. Atlanta gets Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, 3 second-round picks, a 2026 first-round pick swap, least favorable of Cleveland, Utah. 2028, right to swap with least favorable Cleveland, Utah. Again, part of the Donovan Mitchell deal. I like this for the Hawks. I like this a lot. DeAndre Hunter, decent scorer. Never understood why he was considered 3-and-D. Defense has just never really been a good part of his game. I understand there's some metrics that could say otherwise, but their team defense has always been really good. Clint Capella, now Dyson Daniels, so on and so forth. But their team defense has been solid. They don't put him on very good players. So, anytime somebody ISOs on him, if they're not great, they won't score. True with most NBA players. I think this kills Cleveland's depth. Karis LeVert did play a big role. Georges Niang did play a big role back up 4 minutes. Let's look at the roster. I do feel like they probably have other guys to replace him. But Karis LeVert, good bench playmaker, good bench scorer. Who do you play at the backup power forward now? Okoro, small. Jalen Tyson, I like him, but is he ready? It's kind of it, honestly. Their centers are Jarrett, Tristan, they have Mobley as a power forward, I guess. He's a power forward center, whatever. Their forwards consist of Imani Bates, JT Thor, Jalen Tyson, according to ESPN. Their guards that could play small forward, power forward, Dean Wade. Oh, I don't know why. Dean Wade, yeah, although he's constantly injured. I think he's injured now. Dean Wade. That's it. There's not really many guys who can play that backup power forward role. I get it. 18 minutes a night, whatever. Not a huge deal. But, bench shooting is important. And bench creation is important. I do think we see a bigger role for Ty Jerome, who I do like, but can he handle that? LeVert was also relied on to be a bench scorer, so I don't get it. Why not push harder for Cam Johnson? If you believe you're this close to winning, I guarantee you as long as contracts match up, the Nets would do this for picks, but I don't know. I will say, the first round pick swaps, I don't mind. Least favorable, little concerning, because Utah's least favorable picks are going to be pretty high. I could be misunderstanding. It could be any Utah pick. I know they have some first-round picks in this draft. I don't know if it specifically is Utah's first-round pick, but whatever. Excuse me, my throat hurts. And I probably have that wrong. I don't think they can swap if Utah has a higher pick than theirs, so that's probably just wrong there. Hey, we've hit the hour mark. Another trade with Atlanta. They get Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, 3 more seconds, and LA gets Bogdan. I've never been big on Mann or Highland, but both are younger than Bogey. Bogey wasn't playing great this year, and for a team rebuilding, it makes sense. Gives them 2 younger pieces. I know Mann's older at this point to try and make something out of. Yeah, but like, why not? Bogey wasn't. He didn't make sense for the team, really. He's 31, getting older, decent sized contract. For LA, I don't hate the deal. This harms their defense a bit. Mann is a good defender. He didn't play a ton, but he's a good defender. Highland never really played, kind of whatever. This adds some good scoring and playmaking off their bench. Bogdan's still a good playmaker, which is something they've quite frankly lacked. They tried to get that in like a Kevin Porter Jr., who is also on the move. We'll have to talk about that in a sec, but tried to get it in a Kevin Porter Jr., didn't work. Tried to get it in somebody like a Chris Dunn, didn't really work, so I like it. I don't mind it. I think they overpaid a little bit. It's a bit of a gamble. Bogey's probably having one of his worst years. But if it hits, great. If it doesn't hit, I don't think they're much worse than they were before. So, yeah, I don't hate it. This is the biggest trade of the year, if not ever. Cody Zeller got sent to the Atlanta Hawks for a second-round pick. I can't find anything more exact, like who the second-round pick is from, or whose second-round pick it is. Obviously, it's Atlanta's, but from which team? I think Atlanta's moving their own. The reason the Rockets do this is Cody has a pretty big contract, and I just have to assume the Rockets won the Hawks. Cody has a big cap, Cody has a big contract, and I imagine the Hawks just want the cap space, like whatever. Cody won't play. Cody didn't play for the Hawks. Like, okay. Remember when people thought Kevin Porter Jr. and Marjon Beauchamp were good? They got traded for each other straight up. Whatever. Both have been busts. Both aren't very good. Both probably won't be very good. Both probably don't make much of an impact on either team. This one is interesting. A lot of sites aren't really reporting on this trade. A lot of sites are only reporting confirmed deals, and when there's so many deals going on, hard to confirm all of them in a timely fashion. But the Raptors get James Wiseman, and the Pacers acquire TBD. Like, we don't know. My guess is probably a second. I know that Toronto is getting Wiseman with cash considerations, but again, I don't know what the Pacers get. Probably nothing great. Wiseman's injured, hasn't been great so far, probably won't be great. This was probably the biggest trade of today. The Memphis Grizzlies get 2 second-round picks, a 2028 second-round pick from Sac, Marvin Bagley, and Johnny Davis. You're probably thinking, Owen, what'd they do to get that? Well, let's continue. Kings get Jake LaRavia. You're probably thinking, whatever, decent bench piece. But what did the Grizzlies do to get Marvin Bagley and Johnny Davis? This is where it gets interesting. The Wizards get Marcus Smart, Alex Len, Colby Jones. I think he got waived. And if he didn't, he won't play much. And a 2025 first-round pick from, I almost said Minnesota, from the Grizzlies, which obviously won't be a very good pick, but solid return. For Marvin Bagley and Johnny Davis, 2 draft busts. One didn't play, the other really didn't play much either. It's a good return, honestly. The first Washington got from Memphis isn't protected. I don't mind this for the Grizzlies. I think they overpaid, but gives them a good reclamation project than Johnny Davis, and I guess gives them more bench depth. They have plenty of center depth, but if Clark or Edie or JJJ goes down, they have another piece. Johnny Davis won't play. He's probably off the team next year because I think he expires. The team didn't pick up his option. So, yeah, bit of an overpay, but I don't hate it. That first wasn't going to be anything crazy. Sack, whatever. Alex Len wasn't going to play anyways with the addition of Yusuf Nurkic. Though Colby Jones is kind of interesting. He's just been a G League player. Again, I didn't play. It was usually Lyles who got those minutes again. We talked about it a little bit in the Yusuf trade. Not the Yusuf, the Valanciunas trade. I'm getting my white European centers mixed up. But a good add. Could get some rotation minutes for LaRavia. They kept Jay Crowder. They still have Lyles, Murray, Ellis, Sabonis, so it probably won't be a ton. But good enough player. Could get some spot minutes. Good offensive player who could play more in some certain situations. For the Wizards, I love it. Marcus Smart, not nearly the player he was, but I don't think the Wizards need that. I think the Wizards purely want him for culture. Is it speculative? Yes. But when you have multiple young guys, multiple guys who have work ethic questions in Sarr and Poole, you better believe Marcus Smart will whip them into shape. There will be no messing around with Marcus Smart. There's a reason every team he's been on loves him and also fears him. Because that guy really cares, and he's kind of a culture setter just on his own. And for a team as young as Washington, great. Great. I mean, if he can teach, Sarr, Poole, so on. I don't feel like listing Coulibaly. I don't feel like listing more players. But if he can teach those guys the ropes, great. I love it. I hear someone. Another trade. The Philadelphia 76ers get cash. The Pistons get Kenyon Martin, a second-round pick from Milwaukee, and a 2031 Dallas pick. Both of those are Philly-owned. Remember when people thought KJ Martin was going to give them a big trade piece for a big deal? Yeah, they ended up just losing because they just got cash from him. In 2 seconds, that could be valuable, but I guess whatever. This is a trade from yesterday I talked about. Some details have changed a bit. The Raptors ended up backing out of the trade. So the details are Detroit gets Dennis Schroeder from the Jazz and Lindy Waters from the Warriors stuff. The Warriors get their guy. They get their third starter. They get Jimmy. The Heat get Andrew Wiggins, slow-mo, a top 10 protected pick, conveys to 2026. Top 10 still conveys to 2027, where it's unprotected. They also get PJ Tucker from the Jazz. I mentioned he moved earlier. Jazz get Josh Richardson, waived. Kenyon Martin, last I checked, still on the team. He's got a big contract, so he probably won't be waived. And a 2028 second-round pick. The Jazz are just racking up second-round picks rather than just keeping young pieces like Jalen Hood-Schifino. I just don't get it. But whatever, Danny Ainge, there's a reason he's one of the better GMs in the league. I guarantee you something will work out. But let's just go through team by team. Detroit, I like the fit. Dennis Schroeder is a better player than Marcus Sasser. Hasn't shown much development. Fine. They're trying to be competent. Okay, that'll help. Lindy Waters probably won't play, but if he does, good three-point shooter. Good guy to fit next to Kate. Smart player, good cutter, like just a good fit. Golden State, this is the interesting one. Golden State gets Jimmy Butler, despite Jimmy Butler's claims of not being willing to extend with Golden State. They signed him for 2 years, $121 million. It's a lot of money. I don't love it. I'll be honest, they didn't give up a ton to get him, I know. But okay, I mean, I guess saying I don't love it isn't true. I don't dislike it, but I don't love it. It's, like, fine. This will improve him for sure if Jimmy plays. I mean, if anything, Jimmy should be Jimmy day-to-day Butler rather than Anthony day-to-day Davis. Like, Jimmy's played like 60, 50, 60, like, just hasn't played much throughout the years. Ow. I was trying to just put my arm under my armpit and I scratched my nose. But this will help him with creation. They've been really lacking that when Steph's off the floor. Pods hasn't really shown he can do that. Wiggins, same, but he's gone now, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, Jimmy Butler will probably just take that Andrew Wiggins role, secondary creator, shoot open shots, just be a smart player next to Draymond and Curry. So I like the fit, helps with creation, and yeah, I don't think the Warriors give up a ton for it. The Heat, they get Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson. I know I'm going through this again, but a 2025 first-round pick, top 10, 2028. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. And PJ Tucker. So the Raptors just get a second-round pick for Davion rather than a quality piece in Tucker. I know I said he's washed, but he's fine. Maybe not quality, but like, if we're talking about food, it's not Michelin star, but it's McDonald's dollar menu. You'll get your fix from that. You won't be hungry, but you won't be like, that was great. For the Heat, I think they probably could have gotten more, but for a team that's still trying to win now, okay, it's not bad. I think Wiggins fits in pretty nicely into the Jimmy Butler role. Athletic player, more of a driver slasher off-ball cutter than anything. Won't take a ton of shots, can still hit some open threes, but a good defender, good rebounder, and he's a decent connector. Kyle Anderson probably doesn't play. PJ Tucker also probably doesn't play. The big question I have is what does this mean for guys like Jaime Jaquez? They have a bunch of power forwards and small forwards who are expiring. Highsmith, Jovic, these guys aren't expiring, but Highsmith, actually he is expiring, but Jovic, Ware, Bam, Love, PJ, and Anderson. Highsmith and Love expire. I guess, what does this mean for Ware and Kyle Anderson? Does Kyle Anderson play? Maybe. He's still a pretty good player. But does he replace Ware in the rotation? Does he replace Jovic? Does he replace Jaime? I mean, Spo has, as great of a coach as he is, he's been known to not have consistent rotations. And obviously it's worked, but definitely frustrating for a lot of us fans who want to see our favorite players develop. I don't love Jaime. I think he's overrated, but fine role player. Fine bench piece who maybe could develop into something more. Still an older player, but again, solid, could develop into something more. But I don't know. If I'm a Heat fan, I'm worried for Ware and Jaquez and Jovic. I know Jovic later pick, same with Jaquez. Ware kind of just barely outside of the lottery, but yeah, it's okay. I like it more if they bring like Anderson and Tucker off the bench. Don't play them over the younger players. They're not going to be doing a ton, but I still think you play your younger players over those guys. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, Wendell Moore wasn't part of any trades, but Detroit waived Wendell Moore. I'll check Shams' Twitter real quick. Just make sure nothing else. Oh, that's interesting. I guess the Bulls waived, blanked on his name there, Torrey Craig, who they signed. The Thunder pick up AJ Mitchell's contract, 2 years, $6 million, signed to a full-term deal. The 76ers signed Chuma Okeke to a 10-day. That's it. Sorry, this is rambly. It's late. I'm tired. I need to go to bed. My throat hurts. This is all just kind of riffing, but if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. I hope to put out more content soon. Sorry this is so late, but yeah. For my one subscriber, love you. Means the world that you did subscribe, and yeah. Stinky Joe / Owen forever.